you have to hit okay. Anyway.
That's it. Just turn me on, turn me up, and turn me loose.
And we're live.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, everybody. Who all we got in here? Let's see. Hello to all the moderators. Thank you for being in here. And everybody in chat. Afternoon. How's everybody doing?
Been doing without.
I don't know about where y'all are. I can only imagine it's a few degrees hotter than here, but it's almost 90 yesterday, and I think it is 90 some today.
It's miserable. It's so
y'all. They told us next week we're gonna have some days heat index to be 105, 108.
Yeah,
it's gonna be bad.
Yeah. Well, hell, it's supposed to be 97, 98 where I am, so I know y'all gonna be over 100.
Yep.
I guarantee it.
Missy been working outside all week long. All she does is complain about how hot it is, but she keeps going out there and doing it anyway.
I have to. I work at night, and it's just as hot because I have to work outside in boots and pants and long sleeve shirt because I get beat up with the mosquitoes.
What'd you do with the hides? Why don't you show everybody the hides?
No, I'm not going to. I no. I just wanted to show you guys.
Oh, okay.
I'll show them. I'll post them when I get them done. But I was just wanting to show you the difference in how the hair and stuff was on, like where the bear was older.
One thing about Squirrel, for a fact, she gets her hands dirty and she is into more kinds of shit like doing hides and building greenhouses and constructing pig pens, and she doesn't just talk about it, y'all. She actually gets in there and does it all the time. You can't pin her down. She won't hold still long enough.
That's what she's been working on, them hides the last 2 weeks, like every day.
Yeah.
The mushroom.
Hey, she can whittle out a mean morel mushroom, buddy.
Right.
You know, the hides, though, I wouldn't even have done them right now. Anybody that does them that knows you don't work hides in this kind of weather unless you can do them inside. But I had my freezer get knocked open. That's where I've been, you guys, real quick. The neighbor's dog got my kid and got it out, and it literally ran and tore Helen back up. It was horrible. I had a mess. I cleaned up. Who knows how much scattered shit and this and that. And come to find out the next day, I noticed it had knocked my freezer door open. There's mud all over the freezer. Everything was starting to thaw out and had hides in there. I mean, that bear hide has been in my freezer for probably 13 years. I was really surprised that every bit of the hair didn't fall out whenever I tried to tan it. But it actually turned out pretty good to have been froze so long. But yeah, I wouldn't have normally done it right now. I would have waited. But I spent, I bet you, close to 3 weeks working on hides and smoking a bunch of deer meat I had in there for the dogs and the bones and everything, just so I didn't lose all of it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, undoubtedly your pig's got a death wish. I've never seen a pig that would like voluntarily try to get in the freezer.
Well, it was either the freezer or I guess the big pit that was chasing it. So
Well,
it was trying to get anywhere it could go.
Well, y'all, we have a guest backstage. Might as well bring him out. For everybody that doesn't know the man,
Ken.
Mr. Ken Shivers. Ken, how's it going?
Afternoon, everybody. Going good.
What'd you say it was down there? You were just telling us, well, you were just telling me backstage that you're at the very bottom of Alabama, right there by Florida. What's temp down there? Above 100?
Feels like. But the real temp, I think we're running in the mid 90s right now.
Well, hot enough.
Hot enough. Too hot.
Too hot. This is why I don't do anything in the middle of summer. I don't go in the woods in the middle of summer.
try being an air conditioner repairman like me. Dude, I worked till late yesterday. I worked 9 hours yesterday, and then I got a call at about almost 10 o'clock last night. One of the deacons at one of the big churches here close called and said, hey, we got 2 units out, and the sanctuary got up. This is what was bad. He said the sanctuary, we had a funeral in there today, and it got up to like 85 degrees during the funeral. And man, it's going to be horrible tomorrow for church service. And I'm thinking, well, okay, if you knew that yesterday, why didn't you call me like during the day where I could have worked it in yesterday? But no, Greg had to get up about 8 o'clock this morning and go fix 2 air units so it would be nice and cool today for church service. So yay.
Yeah, good on you.
You're a good man, Greg.
Sometimes I don't want to be, though. Oh,
God bless you.
every day? That's a fact.
Sir.
Oh, I bless him. I God bless him almost every day, too. So, Ken, all right. Where do we even want to start with this, Ken? How did you get into the cryptid Bigfoot thing? But more than that, I mean, there's more than that. So we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff today. But let me ask you this. Where were you born and raised?
Born and raised right where I'm at.
Okay. So now, obviously, you've got a lot of native blood. Were you brought up that way? Is that something that your family was like a traditionalist on, or?
My family, we always have been Indian or knew we were Indian Creek.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that, everybody knew that. My mom, when she married my dad, his dad, my grandpa Shivers, he didn't want them to get married because she was Indian. And so he was against it. They ended up having to elope. And but later years though, he was her favorite, and he took up for her over anybody. So but yeah, there was growing up at school and things like that, I got called all the names, chief, and not in a good way.
Right.
Yeah.
There were very few of us that were at the school I went to. There were very few. Now, I don't live on the reservation. That's about 20 miles from here. But where I grew up at, the school I went to was in Flomaton, which is just a small town right on the Florida line, north of Pensacola. So there were very few of us that were there were a few others, but for the most part, we were very much the minority, extreme minority.
Now,
Ken, if your native blood comes in on, so it's your mom's side,
Yeah.
what was like your mom's maiden name? Was it,
Her maiden name was Rolin, Rolin, but that name, going back through the Rollins, through my papa Roland on back, that name only existed for about 4 generations. It was an adopted name, Originally, they didn't have a surname. The
Yeah.
Rowland name, they just adopted it. And they, before then, like on the old census records, that original family, they identified as Coon, Coon, Coon.
Hmm.
And they did that because they were from the Raccoon clan.
Okay.
So they didn't have a last name,
Yeah.
but they just adopted the name Rowland. Now, we don't know why or where they got that from. They probably met somebody, with that name that, was important, or they looked up to, or who had helped the family or something. So they started going by that last name.
You were talking about that the Creek Indians, they're a conglomeration of other tribes, right?
Correct.
So what other tribes formed them?
Okay. Well, you had the Muskogee people, which the Muskogee language it became the dominant language within the Creek Nation. But other tribes had their own languages too. There were the Yuchi, and there were the Alabama tribes, Coushatta tribes. Gosh, there were a lot of them. The Shawnee had a town in the Creek Nation, and a lot of people came from the Savannah area, the Savannah people, which is southeastern Georgia, South Carolina, in that area or near Savannah. So you had a lot of smaller tribes that they formed the Creek Nation, which was a confederation. So they that was for political strength, protection, things of that nature. So they had that, and they formed a national council. And
so just like where some groups had, I guess if they all spoke a common dialect, but some groups still had their own language that they spoke amongst themselves, right? Is that right?
Right.
Was it the same thing with like historical traditions and myths and stories and everything? Did some of these groups have their own individual like tales and stories and fables and things?
Oh yeah, they had their own cultural ways, but there also was a lot of similarity because we're talking about the southeastern region. So there's a lot of commonalities between, whether you're thinking Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw Creek, the Catawba. There's a lot of similarities, within the culture.
Right.
But there are some unique, aspects as well.
Well, just right off the top of my head, me just thinking out loud, which I'm going to come from a Bigfoot point of view, but just like there are a lot of native terms for Bigfoot, and a lot of them mean different things. I mean, some of them just the word that they use for it, or the term that they use to describe it. In some areas, it's very aggressive, like cannibal or man-eater. In others, it's like big brother and stuff like that. Did you, and I don't really want to get rolling on the Bigfoot thing right yet, but as you were growing up, were there any stories, tales, anything like that? Did anybody say anything about boogers while you were growing up, and what did they say about?
Well, my dad always told me a story. When he was young, see, our land here where we live, it's all family land. So his father and his grandfather lived here.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I still live here too. And the road coming up from the main road When I say main road, it's a country road, but back when he was young, it was dirt road. Well, it was dirt road when I was young too, until they paved it. But he told a story about walking up the road at night, and something was in the woods pacing him and screaming, and he always thought it was a panther. So, but it followed him, and if he stopped, it would stop. So he always told me that story. And my mom was always talking about boogers. She talked about boogers a lot, and if I needed a haircut, she'd get on me and she'd say, "You're starting to look like a woolly booger."
Right.
Yeah, of course, stories about the booger man and the booger man to get you and things like that. But my dad took me. I couldn't have been 3 years old or so, so I don't remember a lot of the details about it. And I think I've told Greg before about this. We went to Pensacola. It was I can't remember if we were in an auditorium or shopping mall or something like that. But we went to see the Minnesota Iceman, which they took that around to like state fairs and shopping malls and different events like that, and would charge people, a quarter or 50 cents or something like that to see it. And so that kind of stuck with me because it looked real to me at that age. And my dad, if he had seen something that he thought was fake or phony, he would have said something, but he thought it was real too, because he told me, I remember him telling me, "Son, you may be looking at history." And so it was something about it that grabbed him and impressed him, and it of course impressed me. I don't remember a whole lot of the details about it, but I remember it was in a block of ice, and I remember the fingers, the fingernails. Of course, you could tell it was covered with hair. So later, I started researching that probably a few years ago, and because it always stuck with me, I wanted to find out more about it. And supposedly it was a hoax.
Well,
But then I found out that there was an original that was not a hoax.
yes.
And there's several different stories and conspiracies about that.
Well,
But,
I was going to ask you if you're talking about the Minnesota Iceman. So the rumor is that whenever, what was it, Air Force captain, I think it was, that shot it. But whenever he went into Canada, coming back into the USA, the story goes that government agents grabbed it and said, "Hey, we're going to put a dummy in its place. You can't be taking the real thing all around the country." It makes you wonder if you actually didn't get to see the real thing before that supposedly happened, if your dad was that impressed with it.
yeah, apparently the real one was around about 3 years or so.
Yeah.
And there's different stories about what happened. Some say that the guy, y'all can help me out if you can, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but
I forget.
The owner, or the one that was taking it around, supposedly got worried about, the feds, the Smithsonian, because it had already been examined and found to be, legitimate and, not a fake. But then the official thing that came out from the Smithsonian was that it was a hoax. But I think it probably ended up there, or either ended up destroyed.
The same place where all the giant skeletons are.
Exactly. M.K. Davis has a really interesting theory about that. He's actually done research and made some connections between the Patterson Gimlin film and the Minnesota Iceman. I just recently heard that, and it's pretty compelling. Some of the commonality, because it was all around the same time period, and there are some connections with some people that were involved with Minnesota Iceman and some people that were involved with the Patterson Gimlin film as well. I'm not saying that the Minnesota Iceman was Patty, of course, because it wasn't. It was a male. But there's some other theories out there about Patty not being the only one there, and there supposedly were some more that were killed. And the Minnesota Iceman had a gunshot wound to the back of the head, and it came out through one of his eyes.
Could you see that looking at it? Could you?
Yes,
You were looking at it.
Mm-hmm. I remember that because what I remember was a lot. I don't know if it was left eye or right eye. I want to say it was left, but I remember seeing it was like a pool of blood, or you could tell there was blood there around the eye.
Did because the pictures are the pictures of the supposed Minnesota Iceman, the pictures that are out there, they're fairly lacking in detail. Mm-hmm. In the way that you remember it, did it look more apish or more humanish?
It really looked both to me.
Yeah.
It looked kind of in between, I guess you would say, or maybe Neanderthalish looking. Of course, I was only three, maybe 4.
Yeah. Still, though, that's cool that you saw that. I've never spoken to anybody that's actually seen it.
Whether I saw the real one or the dummy, it stuck with me all these years. So, and then always, I've always believed in, that Bigfoot was a real creature or being, and I've known that, with different tribes, there's different, folklore or legends, beliefs about it, and it runs the whole, just like with anybody else, depending on the tribe. Some, like you said, see them as or believe that they're kind of like our forest friends, protectors, but then some of the tribes believe that they've stolen their women, their children, and that they're more aggressive. So it's it totally depends upon the particular culture of the different tribes.
It almost seems regional too. Different areas of the country. It almost seems like maybe they behave differently in different areas of the country. I know from personal experience that, like, around where I am, they're very, they don't vocalize hardly at all. They, you really got to get them going to get anything, to get a wood knock or anything. There are other places, you can go to LBL and do a call, and if they're there, they'll call back. I mean, it's, but it just seems that their behavior is different. So growing up, if your mom knew about them, did your mom say anything specifically about them? Were there any do's and don'ts? Was there the whole don't whistle at night kind of thing? Did she tell you anything specific about them from her understanding?
Well, I know that she wasn't really, I wasn't really allowed to be out at night. I know that. She didn't tell me specifically why, but once it was dark, I had to be inside the house. I mean, it was time to eat, whatever. And you didn't go back out after that. Unless we were going somewhere,
Yeah. That's an interesting question, Roger. He said, are there any tribes that don't believe? Not that I'm aware of.
Well, let me ask this. I mean, if you can say it, that's okay. If you can't, that's okay. But like if you go to any of the tribal, like, powwows or gatherings or whatever, is the Bigfoot subject ever brought up and talked about?
Well, I know that at some of the festivals or different events that I've been to, I know that the Cherokee, we always have, there's a lot of intertribal. Powwows are intertribal. You know, you have tribes from all over that come and participate and dance and things like that. The dance at the powwow, that type of dancing is from the Plains tribes, the Western tribes. That's not a traditional dance for Southeastern tribes, but it's a modern day, you know, kind of like a intertribal fellowship, you know, and where basically all tribes now have, you know, powwow dancers. But at powwows and things, sometimes they'll have different groups that'll come in and maybe do some of their traditional dances. And the Cherokee, I've got some friends from Cherokee in North Carolina. They always come in a lot of times at our powwow. And sometimes they've done some of their traditional dances, and they have a dance that's called the booger dance. And they don't really, you know, talk about it and say this is, you know, Bigfoot or whatever, but their dance is a booger dance, and they use mask and things like that while they do this particular dance. Of course, they have other dances too. They have a bear dance and different things like that. But I know they have a booger dance, and I'm sure that's why, you know, with the mask and everything. But I don't know the Cherokee word for Bigfoot. I'm not sure. Somebody probably in chat probably knows, but as far as for the Creek or in the Muskogee language, our name is Estijapko, and that just means long man or tall man. You know, different tribes, you know, it may mean wild man or hairy man, but in ours it means long or tall man. So it focuses on the height.
Just curious, is there anything that is there any type of traditional belief in a dog man?
Not that I have heard of. I'm sure there are, because I know in the Muskogee language we have 3 or 4 different words that I know of for different beings, and the Estijapko is just one of those. And some of these other creatures, you know, are supposed to have, you know, different forms. And if there is one about the dog man, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a word for it. I'm just not aware of you know, what it is. But I know there's one that's supposed to have a long tail, and it's kind of like a booger, but it's a little bit different too. So if the dog man has a long tail, which I've not seen one in person, and really hadn't looked for one, don't plan on looking for one.
Right.
But a lot of people have seen them. But you know, that could be, you know, definitely could be describing a dog man type creature. And there's a couple more too. You know, there's words for ghost, or and there's different there's 3 or 4 different type cryptids. And I know deer woman. Yeah, deer woman. Did you ever see did y'all ever watch that show Res Dogs? Reservation Dogs?
I think I saw part of it. Yeah.
You did. If you watch on that, there's a lot of references to different cryptids on that. Now, deer woman, I wouldn't describe as being a cryptid, but also we have those that are shapeshifters, and we don't say the word. There's a ranch that's you know what I'm talking about, that starts with that word.
Yeah.
We don't say that word because in saying that word, we believe that you can call them. You're opening up to them for them to come. But those are not cryptids. Those are people who are practicing dark medicine.
So on the booger thing, do they consider boogers to be a physical creature or spiritual creature?
An interdimensional being.
Okay, so they do. That's traditional. That they consider it being able to go from one plane to another.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. Well, I know in ours anyway. That's what I've been taught. And how they do that is whether it's natural or supernatural or paranormal or whatever you want to term it. I believe that just like our medicine people, they know medicine too, and they can use that medicine and to do some things that appear to be supernatural or paranormal. But people can do that too. And there was a time in history that the medicine was a lot stronger with native people and could do a lot of things. Whether a lot of people think about or talk about them that they cloak or become, look like the predator, kind of invisible, but you can see, something there, blurry or whatever. But that's one possibility that it's done through certain medicine. And you also have a lot of people are looking in more and more to the connection with quartz. And quartz is a part of medicine, traditional native medicine, a lot of times as well. Like in some of the medicine bundles, there would always be a quartz crystal. And I actually have a story about the quartz as well, if y'all want to hear that.
Yeah.
That happened. Okay, back in 2021, I'm a member of Ceremonial Grounds in Oklahoma. And our Miko, which is our chief, he passed away in 2021. And so there was myself, I was the driver, and I had 3 other people, close friends of mine. We went out to Oklahoma for his funeral. And I believe it was on March the 4th, if I'm not mistaken, of 2021. And we left. The funeral was in the northeast corner of Oklahoma. And we left there right after the funeral. So we came through part of Missouri, down through Arkansas. And when we were coming through Arkansas, somehow we lost 3 hours of time. And we have no clue to this day what happened. But we lost 3 hours of time. We get down to, we finally made it back down to I-40. And it had gotten dark, so we had planned to drive just south of Memphis and spend the night. So when we got to the bridge coming up over the Mississippi River going into Memphis, it felt like I had a blowout. And because there was like a loud pop, and you could feel it under your feet. We felt it under the feet, kind of like we'd had a blown out or if I'd run over something. But it was no blowout, and we didn't run over anything. And a good friend of mine was sitting in the back seat, and down in her purse, she had her medicine bag or pouch in her purse, which was down on the floorboard. And she checked and looked in her medicine bag, and she had a quartz crystal that was very special and had been prayed over. And that crystal had cracked in two. And that's what we heard and what we felt was that crystal broke in two, which we didn't know, have any idea why. And I still can't say exactly for sure why. But also coming across the bridge, when we were coming across the bridge, at the same time all this happened, they have a light show or something on that bridge, and all these blue lights started up. They just do it like a certain time at night, every night or something. And so about a week later, we get home. Well, we were home before then, but about a week later after we got home, we found out that same bridge had been shut down because they had an inspector that they do an inspection every 2 years on that bridge. They had an inspector that was doing his 2-year inspection and found that one of the major support rails had been cracked. It was barely hanging on. And immediately he called, reported it, ordered that the bridge be shut down. Everybody evacuated off the bridge. That bridge, it could have collapsed at any moment, or part of it could have collapsed at any moment. So then I got thinking about that that rock and that crystal or quartz, and I don't know if maybe that medicine maybe gave itself for that bridge,
Right.
to save lives or
Right.
to some type of warning or something, or if maybe the crack occurred at the same time that quartz cracked. Because from what I read about the inspection, they said that theoretically the crack could have happened or started the day after the inspection 2 years prior. But in looking at that and the analysis they did on that, they said that it looked like that it was around a week or somewhere around, or at least a week when that cracked. So they shut down the bridge on the 13th, and it was the 4th that we crossed the bridge.
And this is the same trip that you had missing time on.
Yes.
Man, that's a lot to process. It's like, did the
Tell
crystal?
me about it.
That's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. I agree.
So do you think that the medicine in the crystal was used to? I don't know.
I think it's related, but I can't say how exactly. Whether that whether it gave itself, to save lives, or that could have possibly been the same time that the crack formed in the bridge. It's just too crazy to be just a coincidence. And the quartz is, a lot of people that are, the place there at the Hollins camp, that's a lot of quartz there. There's a lot of quartz other places. I know at Paul and Pam in Arkansas, they have a lot of quartz there as well. And I assume, Greg, do you have a lot of quartz at your place, or?
We find some quartz. We don't have it quite as much as like what at Holland, but yeah, there is some quartz around here. And I've got a few, which they could have brought it from somewhere else, but I've got a few airheads, and I've got a pretty good size knife that's chipped out of quartz that I found in some of the fields that we own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got some real pretty points that they're almost translucent. I mean, well, they are. You can see light through them if you hold them up, but they're air points made out of quartz.
Yeah. I'm not saying that there's a connection between quartz and Bigfoot or boogers, but There seems to be.
Mhm.
This where I live now is absolutely loaded with it. It's jutting out of the ground. I mean, giant rocks, of course.
Exactly.
And I've said from the get-go, they move through here. They don't live here, but they move through here. When there is missing time, it would be, what did that say? It would be interesting to scan the body for radiation exposure. Sure.
Every time I've ever had missing time, I had alcohol exposure.
Dynamite. Well, maybe dynamite. I bet if that bridge would have started to collapse, you'd have seen a reaction.
I bet you would.
Roger said, have you ever had quartz explode at any other time?
No, not at any other time that I've ever witnessed.
Yeah. You know, the thing about it too, you know, like North Georgia has a lot of quartz and up through that way. Well, a lot of the Appalachian does. But
Yeah.
you know what's always found, or not always, but predominantly found in quartz is gold. If you find a gold vein, it's going to be in quartz.
Right. Exactly. So who knows? And then I heard last night I was watching Jessica Jones. She had Flat Rock on last night, and
Oh, did she?
she was talking about and she was talking about during or down in Florida about there being so much limestone as well, and she was talking about the limestone, you know,
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
some
Shout
type
out.
of connection.
Yeah. Shout out to Flat Rock, man. He done a really great job. We always does,
He
but
did.
he did a really good job on Jessica's show last night.
He sure did.
Yo. Yo.
Man.
Of
You
course,
know, and
you
that's
know,
the thing. That's the thing about Flat Rock. Anybody, if they, all these people go to listen to these people that I call them the one-shot wonders that had an encounter 50 years ago and they've made a living off this stuff, and they want to rally around those people. When you got people like Flat Rock that's living amongst these things, that's had all these encounters and all these experiences, and you got somebody like Flat Rock, and you know he's slowly gaining notoriety, and people are starting to listen. But people are missing. They're missing out on so much because they get in the sensationalized people in this instead of the people that's going through it. That's going through it on a regular basis, and that's where people's missing their opportunity.
exactly. If people would just listen and talk to people who know, and they'd learn a whole lot more than just stories.
Well,
And here's some of the real things.
there is a big difference with there's a large portion of the Bigfoot world that has never been around them, doesn't go looking for them. If they do, they do something like get out of a car on the side of a road and take a stick and beat on a tree and scream or something.
Not me.
Hey. But all I'm saying is there's a large portion of the Bigfoot community that they like those excitable shows, the shows that have the extreme encounters. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you actually want to start to understand the reality of the subject, you have to deal with the people that have actually had experience with this and have been doing it for a while.
Exactly.
I mean, you could say what you want about anybody that we've had on our show. Some people on our show have only had one or two experiences, but we have a lot of people on our shows that, they've been doing this for a while and they've had multiple experiences, and they can actually tell you things that you're not going to get from the sensationalized, a booger came up and was trying to tear the door off my cabin and beat on the wall and screamed at me and it was blood curdling and he left giant tracks going away. Well, that's a good story, but it doesn't really tell you anything. You have to get in the weeds and you have to do the research and find the real people. That's one of the things that's hard about doing a YouTube show, is just getting people on that you're like, yeah, this person knows a little something or had the real thing happen to them.
Exactly.
A lot of people won't talk about it either. So, Speaking of which, did anybody, whenever you were growing up with the people in your area right there around you that you grew up with, whenever you were younger, did any of them have any booger experiences that you heard about as a kid?
I didn't really hear about them talking about boogers. I did, but then I didn't. I heard a lot of people talk about boogers, but they didn't really say a whole lot as far as what they were or what they were talking about. In my mom's family, her grandmother, which I never knew, she passed before I was born. But at her house where they lived, their old house, they had a lot of things happen. They heard a lot of noises. They would always hear something up under their house. They described it. It sounded like chicken wings flopping, like chickens were up under the house flopping their wings. And this happened on a regular basis. And they would go out and look up under the house, and they could never find anything or see anything. So they never knew what the noises were. They also would see an orb like, they described it as a ball of fire. And it happened, I don't know how often it happened, but it was not just a one-time occurrence. It happened several times, and this orb would come down the pathway to their house. And every time when it got in front of their house, it would come into their yard, and it would circle around a big tree in the yard 3 or 4 times, and then it would shoot up the tree to the top and disappear. And so I know I've heard a lot of my aunts and uncles talk about that they witnessed it. And I have an uncle one time that talked about that he witnessed in the kitchen. He's seen silverware and things in the kitchen out of the sink would rise up and would be floating in the air. And if you knew this uncle of mine, you would know without a doubt he was telling the truth, because he's not one to make anything up like that.
I know without a doubt that cabinet would have been ashes before I saw that happen.
But that was just no normal thing to them, evidently, because all the family, and there were 12 in my mom's family of the siblings, and they all know about it and have talked about it and passed those stories down. But a lot of it, my great grandmother, she was a medicine person. She did know medicine and practice medicine. They didn't have any doctors around, but she was the doctor for the community, and people would come from miles around to get her and take her. If they had somebody sick, they would come get her, and she would go out into the woods and pick the plants and the herbs that she needed, and go to that person's house, and take care of them, or, deliver a baby, I guess. And also when somebody passed away, she would be the one that was designated. She would prepare the body and wash the body, and they would take down a door, a window, and put it across 2 chairs and lay the body out. And she sewed a burial garment for the body, and they called that the shroud, abaleta, which in Muskogee language means to wrap around. And so they would do the burial garment. They would have a wake all night. They never left the body. And because there were a lot of beliefs, as far as staying with the body, to be sure that, no evil spirit or anything, would come or interfere with them in making their journey. But they would take them and bury them, but they didn't have a funeral. And it would be several months later they would go back and have a funeral service. And when they had that funeral, that was the end to their mourning period, and they'd have a big meal, and it would be more of a celebration, a happy time. But that's when they did the funeral. They did the burial immediately, and the funeral would be months later.
And what's the point of that? What was the point for that?
For doing the funeral later?
Yeah.
To allow for a mourning period.
Oh, okay.
For a period of mourning. And they had something called the Indian cry. And when they buried that person, it would just be a time of crying, mourning, and wailing. That's an ancient, really ancient native practice. It's not done today any longer. I say it's not done. I've heard that there are some. I've heard that there's some Choctaw that still follow that, but it's very private and secretive when they do. That's not like anything open to the public because it's very private and sacred to them. But that's an ancient practice. But now today, one of the things that's still followed is the 4-day. We still do the wake too, the all-night wake, and the body's not left. And a lot of times the wakes are in churches; they're not in a funeral home. But people are with the body at all times, singing songs and hymns. And there's a period, you wait 4 days. Which 4 is the 4-day thing is to our sacred number is 4. Such as the 4 directions, the 4 winds. But it's believed that it takes that 4-day period for that person to be able to, they're still around for that 4-day period. But after that is when, they can continue on their journey into the next life.
What do you mean by next life, Ken?
Next life, heaven.
Oh, okay. All right.
Heaven or beyond.
Right.
Hopefully heaven.
Hopefully. Well, that's everybody's hope, ain't it?
Yep. That's the main deal. But there's a lot of ancient beliefs too about that. We don't really need to get into all that, but it's dates back to the Mississippian period, to the mound builders and things like that. So there's a lot of beliefs there, ancient beliefs regarding the stars and the pathway of souls and the different dimensions that you travel to and make your journey after you pass. You go through these different dimensions on your way. And if you've lived a good life, you can go on to the next level or the next dimension. But if not, sometimes you're not allowed to. So you don't want to get stuck in the wrong dimension.
No. Was that like a different level?
Unless you want to, Spencer. I don't know, Spencer. You might want to.
Nah.
You might see some things.
Let me before I forget, because I'll forget whenever we carry on this conversation, but you just brought up the mound builders.
Yeah.
Just curious. I mean, since you're actually one of us and you're in the Bigfoot world kind of thing, what do you think about, I'm sure that a lot of the burial mounds were for, just average people. But what do you think about the concept of, I find it interesting that there is a lot of activity around native burial mounds. And I've also seen a lot of stuff suggesting that some of the mounds, especially out west, some of the mounds that have been disrupted had large skeletons in them. What do you make anything of that? Do you have any theories about that?
Absolutely. I think that a lot of your mound sites had the large giant skeletons are buried. Those that have been excavated, they're not on display anywhere. They were taken and being kept hidden or whatever they did with them or decided to do with them. But I think that definitely, if you believe that there's a connection between the giants and Bigfoot, which I don't know. I can't say for sure, but you're right that I do definitely think there's a connection between mound sites or burial grounds and Bigfoot. There seem to be a lot around there, and if they have, their ancestors buried there or were buried there, they're going to want to be sure and keep that, try to keep people away from that, or keep it from being developed, or keep it from being, looted or whatever. But I think there's a whole lot more burial sites and mounds than what we even realize. We know about a lot of the big ones, the ones that have been preserved or partially preserved, but there's mounds. People have built houses on top of mounds. There's roads across mounds. There's a lot of mounds that's been farmed and it's been destroyed, and you don't even know, that's there. So potentially, there could be burials and mound sites and sacred sites that, attract boogers and other things. And you may not even realize what you have, right there where you're encountering all this.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's just like Hollins. Who knows what all is there? I believe something's definitely there as far as a mound or something. I think Mark Green said that there was a mound somewhere around close to there.
I don't know if there is or not. I just know that they definitely have boogers there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
If we're going to talk about Hollins, and you were at the last one here just a few weeks ago, but let's get into a little bit, if you don't mind. Like, what made you actually start? You grew up and you knew about them. You believed that they were real, but what made you actually start getting into the area where you were going to some of these places and seeing what you could experience, and what happened along the way? What all did you experience? What all have you had happen to you?
Okay, we'll have to go back a little ways, and began in 2011. I'm just going to try to run through this real quick. In 2011, my wife passed away, and we had one son. He was 15 at the time. My wife was only 41 when she passed, so I became a single father. In 2015, my mom passed away. 2016, my dad passed away. 2021, my only brother passed away.
Wow.
So I had, this whole series of my immediate family, were all gone, and except for my son. And now he's married, and I have a beautiful daughter-in-law, and I'm praying for grandchildren one day.
Right.
I hope I don't wait too long, because I still won't be around alive to see them. But it was in 2015 that I think it really, an awakening started for me, because I had lost my mom. I actually think it was 2016, because it was right after I had lost my dad. So I'd lost my wife, my mom, my dad, and I was just, in a state of just disarray, and just, just didn't know where to turn. And I have, I've always been in church. I've always been a Christian, and the Lord, everything that's happened, I know the good Lord has taken care of me, has guided me in everything I've done. And my faith is in Him, regardless of what happens, good or bad. But you still have to go through, when you lose somebody, or you go through traumatic experiences or whatever, you still have to deal with the pain, and you still have to find the way that's best for you. Different people deal with things in different ways, but you have to find what's best for you, and follow the good Lord, what He leads you to do. So that was the first time, right after my dad passed away, that I went with some friends and went to Oklahoma to the ceremonial grounds. That's when I started going there. And I went for about 6 straight years there in a row. But the first time that I went, you know, we have special medicine that we touch. All the men, we sit under the arbors, and there's a lot of protocol we have to follow. We fast. I've been out there when it's been, the real temperature has been 110 plus, the real temperature. Not a breeze stirring, extremely hot. You can't have a drop of water. You can't even, in the morning you get up, you can't even brush your teeth or rinse your mouth out or anything. And we're working. We're not just sitting around, you know, we're working and doing different things, you know, whether it's cutting grass or weed eating or down on the woods cutting logs for the sacred fire. There's different things that we do, you know. And but after going through all that for the first time, it really made a huge difference. It was like I awakened to something that was inside of me. And I look at it as a blessing from the Lord that I went through that. And from that point forward, I began to awaken to, I guess you would say, the spiritual side of my native ancestry and culture and beliefs. And so it just started building upon that. And honestly, 2021 was when, you know, I started doing more research and looking and watching a lot of, which I've always watched programs and things about Bigfoot, just like everybody, but, or like most of us. But 2021, when my brother passed away, I had never talked to my brother about it. And matter of fact, it was just a year or two ago, my sister-in-law, who's still living, she told me, I was talking to her something about, I think I was talking to her about woodwalkers or something, or, you know, some of the podcasts that I was watching. And she said that my brother watched everything he could find, that he was totally consumed with Bigfoot, you know, was a huge believer in Bigfoot. He never mentioned it to me. I never knew it. And I don't know what encounters he may have had or, you know, what caused his intense interest. I don't know. But it seems like when he passed away, even though I didn't know it at the time, that's when, you know, my interest really started to, you know, increase. And it's not that I had a sighting, because I didn't. You know, I've never had a sighting as far as, you know, what people would say a class A. I've never had that.
Right.
I've experienced a lot of other things though.
Yeah.
And but it was just funny that, you know, I really had gotten, my interest had really peaked, you know, for a couple of years before I even knew that he had that same thing. So I don't know if it got passed from him to me or what. But looking back, like so many people have talked about, looking back, you think about strange things that happen in your past. And now that you've learned some things and you've listened to other people that you know are real and have had real encounters, just like Greg, you know, when I first heard Greg a few years ago talking about it, you know, it was like, I had no doubt Greg, what he was going through and the things he was talking about, I had never had a doubt it was real, you know, the things he was talking about, and Flat Rock and, you know, some other folks too. And so I started thinking back on things, you know, I would hear this, you know, one person say this happened, or they'll do this, or they'll do that, or Coonbo, listening to all his stories and things. And I'm thinking, well, that happened to me, you know, or I heard the same thing, or I experienced the same thing. And looking back, there's multiple things that have happened to me that I can't say that it was Bigfoot, but I can say it was something, and I can say it fits the mold, it fits the description that I've heard from a lot of other folks. And starting back when I was probably a teenager, I was driving, 18, 19 probably. But I was driving, and the major or the biggest creek close to me is the Big Escambia Creek. And I would go over on the creek all the time. I would go by myself. I'd go fishing, in the creek, walk the creek and fish. Or sometimes I just go over there, looking for rocks or airheads or whatever. And I didn't think a thing about going there, by myself. And I just like to be in the woods and be out and, look around anytime I could get out like that. And I enjoyed being by myself at times, And the one day I was riding a dirt road over there real close to the creek, and I saw on the left what I thought and still believe that it was a mound. It wasn't a huge mound, but it had big trees growing out of the top of it, so it had been there for a long time. And I would say the mound was probably about maybe 6 to 8 foot in height, maybe 15 foot in length. It wasn't a big platform mound like you think, but more of a smaller mound, like possibly a burial mound or something. So I hopped out of my truck and I was walking. It was probably about 15 yards inside the wood line, and I was walking over there to it because I was wanting to see it up closer and see what it was or if I could tell anything about it. And I got about 6 foot from it, and there was something behind it that huffed and growled at me, and I don't know what the heck it was, but it scared me to death. And because it's just like it just went straight through me, and at the time, I didn't have a gun or anything. I was just riding the roads, checking out stuff. But I got back in my truck and got out there quick as I could. I don't know what it was. I've been around, familiar. If you grow up around here, you're familiar, with animal sounds and things like that. Could it have been a bear? I guess possibly, but a lot of things, like that, it'll run off, or you'll hear it running off, but whatever this was didn't run off. It wasn't afraid at all. And, I've not really heard a sound like it before. I'm familiar with fox sounds because my dad, my uncle, they used to, when I was a teenager, they used to trap, and I would go them to set the trap lines and go early in the mornings to check them and things like that. And at one point, they had some fox that they had. They built some cages, and they got a permit to have these fox in captivity, and they had a male and a female, and everybody told them that they wouldn't mate in captivity. Well, they did, and they had a lot of fox pups. So I used to play with fox pups, and pet them, till they grew up. And of course, then they took them for their hides. And so I've heard the fox sounds, and the fox sounds can be really scary too. They can, if you don't know it's a fox, it can scare you. But this wasn't anything like that, what I heard at that time. And there was another time that I was about 22. I went to at the time I was going to school or to college at Troy University, and I had driven up to Wetumpka and went to Fort Toulouse, in which there's a mound right there, Fort Toulouse. And so nobody else was there. I was there by myself, and there's a little pathway you can walk up the mound to the top of the mound. So I walked up the little path. I was standing on top of the mound, and all of a sudden I just felt like an electric jolt went through my body, and I have no idea what it was or what caused it. But I've heard a lot of people say, when they've been zapped or they've been hit with infrasound, and that different people can react differently, or some may feel it, some may not feel it. I don't know what it was, but something's at me, whether it was a Bigfoot or whether it was some type of unseen force or whatever. As soon as I got off the mound, it was completely gone. I have no idea what it was. Another time I was camping with some friends, and at a creek, it was a very remote creek, and it was kind of swampy around there. And it was after dark. We had the fire going down on the sandbar. So I walked back behind my truck to relieve myself, and I got back there behind the truck, and there was a most horrible smell that I can't even describe how bad it smelled. It was horrible, and it smelled like something dead, rotten, or sulfur like or something. It was nasty, but I didn't know what it was, and I went back, didn't smell it anymore, didn't hear anything like that. I didn't think anything of it really, but it had not been there earlier, because I'd been all around there behind the truck and everything, and so it wasn't anything dead, or I would smelled it earlier during the heat of the day especially. But at night, I don't know what it was, but I smelled something.
It's interesting that it was there 1 minute and not there later.
Right. Yeah. It was just just that one time while we were there. But I know that there's been a lot of reports in my area, and there are some older BFRO reports, or BRFO, but I've never, if I did see something, I wouldn't report it probably,
Yeah.
I wouldn't, but just the area where Flat Rock lives, I've gone through that area a lot because my wife is from a little town called Red Level. That's it's maybe about 15 miles on the other side of where Flat Rock lives. And matter of fact, his wife is from Red Level too. But going through there years ago when we were still dating, I would go through there all the time at night and everything. And I was going through one night, and it sounded like somebody had shot my vehicle. I was in a car and just I thought I was about to, the windows would be cracked or shattered and whatever. It sounded loud, like a gun, like a shotgun. And but something hit the car while I was traveling, and I mean it was in a kind of remote area. There were no houses or anything on either side. I don't know what it was. I've asked people, if boogers will throw rocks at moving vehicles, and I don't know. Do you guys know if they will or not, or if anybody's ever experienced that?
I can't say I've ever heard them just picking up a stone and throwing it at a random car that was just driving away, but I've definitely heard of them throwing rocks and sticks at vehicles when they wanted somebody to get out of that area. But as far as just driving through, I don't know. Yeah,
I've heard the same thing like you. I don't know. I guess it could have been space debris that fell out of the sky and hit me, just happened to hit right there. I don't know what it was. But, it just makes you have a lot of questions,
Sure.
when you look back and you see things like that. And I did, as far as, actually a sighting, I can't say yes or no, but coming through on the interstate near Evergreen, I was coming back from somewhere, and right before the exit where there's a Love truck stop, there's a power line right behind that. And I was coming there, was heading south, and so this would have been on my right. And when I was passing that power line, I just happened to glance real quick to the right. And what I saw, everything was green. That time of the year, everything was green. But standing right there in the middle of the power line, there was something brown or brownish, dark brown color. And it looked like, kind of like it was somebody in like what would a ghillie suit would look like standing there, or either a big, dead tree that was brown or something. And I just caught a quick glimpse of it, and it's just weird. And I kept thinking, was that, did I catch a glimpse of a booger? And I talked to Flat Rock about it, and he said, well, there's been a couple of people that have had sightings right there at the same place before, back behind that truck stop. And it was during the day, but I think it may have been because, going back, I mean, there's nothing there. When I went back, there's not anything there. And I don't know anything else it could have been, but it's not there now.
So it definitely wasn't a tree or a bush or anything, but
Not unless it was for completely dead and brown for some reason, but everything else was green all around it. That's why it stood out. That's why it caught my eye.
yeah. But you said you went back and it wasn't there, so
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, hey, that sounds typical,
But that's just random luck, I guess you would say. But I'm sure they probably, behind that truck stop, there's probably all kind of, dumpsters and food dumped and things like that, because they keep food out continuously. There's a pizza place, there's a Godfather's Pizza, and there's a Arby's right there in the truck stop. So I know they probably have, I mean, the power line right behind there, the rivers are nearby, that are known, where the boogers travel. And Flat Rock can tell you, there's Burnt Corn Creek, Murder Creek, your Sepulga River. All of that runs right close to there. And there's been a lot of activity and sightings there.
Speaking of Flat Rocks, and we have the video if you want to show it, but before we show the video, how many times have you been to Flat Rocks?
I have never been to Flat Rocks.
Okay, I thought this was at Flat. Oh no, never mind. I'm thinking of Rodney or David Beasley rather.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I've never been to Flat Rocks. Flat Rocks has been to my house.
Oh, has he?
Oh yeah, he come over a few weeks ago.
Well,
He come over. I mean, we talk a lot and everything because we're actually cousins, distant cousins.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's got Creek ancestry too.
Oh.
And we both go back to the Manaks. He goes back through the Ward family, and the Wards go back to a Nahoga Manak. Now, Nahoga Manak was my 5th great grandfather's sister. So that's where the connection is. It's 5 generations back.
Gotcha.
But
So
it
very-
is through our Creek ancestry.
Yeah. So very distant bloodline, but still, that's cool. I did
Well,
not know that.
We got a real close connection now. We do.
Whenever you said Flat Rock, I don't know why I was thinking of the Creepy Mountain and David Beasley, but
Oh yeah,
but
I'm up
whenever you
there a
said
lot.
Flat Rock, I jumped on the Flat Rock. But I was going to say about the Creepy Mountain thing. Well, Flat Rock's property would be the same difference because he has them there on his property. Sometimes more active than others, but hey, Creepy Mountain's like that too to some degree. They're always there, but they're more active at certain times than others. And you've been to Hollands, of course, so you're in all the same area that we all know and that we're all like talking about and covering and everything. Before we show the video, though, I don't know how many times you've been to David's place or if you've ever been like up on Creepy Mountain. I don't know, but because his land is right there at Creepy Mountain. It's on the bottom side of Creepy Mountain. On the video, whenever you were there at David's and you saw the eye shine, before we show the video, when you were looking at it yourself without recording it on your phone, or did you say you recorded it with your phone?
Yes.
Could you see the eye shine with your naked eyes?
Yes.
What were you think? Was David right there with you? Were you guys talking? Were you pointing it out to each other? You both saw it at the same time?
I don't know if I don't think he saw it at the time because the way we were around the fire pit, and from where I was sitting or standing, I don't even remember if I was standing or sitting, it just caught my attention. So I just started, filming at the time. And I really immediately forgot about it, which that's another belief of our Creek beliefs about Estijabco is they make you forget. And it was probably make you forget.
So they could make you have missing time.
I could have had encounters with a Bigfoot 20 times in the past and not remember the first time.
It's interesting because
I say, we'll make you forget.
Billy at Hollands had an experience that he doesn't know what happened with a few hours and didn't remember. Other people had to tell him what happened that night before it came back to his memory because he didn't remember doing any of it.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Spencer, part of that, I think that Don and Sherry don't really have a lot of memory of it.
Yeah. Well, the only time I ever feel like I was zapped, I can't tell you exactly how I got to where I was whenever it happened. I just knew that my truck was downhill, and whenever I got down there, then I was fine. But it was very disorienting, like scatterbrain, like not knowing what's going on. Where am I? What's going on? What's happening? So who knows?
Yeah, Pyro just commented, same with the Cherokee, there's a name for them that translates to make you forget.
That's really
so it's not only the Muskogee, but it's also Cherokee.
Huh. Hey, we're covering new ground here on the show today.
And who knows? That's why maybe a lot of us that maybe, we don't think that we've had a close encounter. We may have had multiple.
Well, whenever you said you didn't remember it immediately, so right after it happened, I assume
it was 6 months later, and recently, when I was going through some pictures and videos and things, because it was before I was going on Squatch and Holler with Roger, and I was just trying to find some stuff or whatever, and I just happened to send that video. And when I watched the video, I was like, when did this happen? I had to actually realize where I was at. I was at David's in his backyard, the fire pit, but I wasn't sure on the orientation of everything. So first of all, I contacted David, and for him to see it. And I said, hey, you know, I've just completely forgot about this, and I don't really remember much about it. And of course, he got pretty excited about it. And I said, do you mind if I share this and or whatever, you know? And he said, oh, yeah, please do. And so I've shared it, you know, I shared it with Flat Rock. I shared it with, I believe I shared it with Mark Green. I shared it with David and, of course, Roger. And the leaves in the tree, you know, it was windy that night. And so I'm thinking that the leaves is what I'm seeing on the left side near the car, which was actually, it's his son's car. His son lives right behind him. And so I was thinking it's leaves, but everybody else said, no, there's something else. There's more than leaves. There's not just leaves. There's something darker than leaves. And somebody else said, no, leaves don't light up. And I was more focused on what was further up and to the right, the eye shine.
Yeah.
It's what I was focusing on, because I was trying to debunk, you know, that as being the leaves, what I was seeing around the car area. But you know, because I don't want to say this is something and it's not anything but leaves,
Sure.
you know, or whatever. But, you know, and probably didn't want to think that something like that was that close to me either. And I didn't know it. But they can get very close to you and you know it. I know that for sure.
Whenever you were recording the eye shine, did you get the creepy feels? Did you smell anything? Was there any kind of vocalizations? You just looked up and saw the glow.
We had
in the video, it's like it's opening and closing its eye, or it's going back and forth behind a tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had heard some every time I've been there, we always hear something. Hey, boo boo. Yeah. We've always heard something. And this past time we were there sitting out in front of his shop, and but we were just looking with thermal, looking around, and Flat Rock had been there the 2 nights prior, but that night I think he stayed at Hollins that night because he wasn't there, or it might have been the night before he came, because he was there with us for a couple of nights at David's. And we were sitting in front of the shop, had all the lights out because we were looking through the thermals and all. And the shop door was open, and David has a leaf blower that was laying in the middle of the floor in his shop. And all of a sudden, we heard the leaf blower come on. It just came on and went off. And I didn't know what it was at first, you know, and I jerked around because it was about 10 foot behind me from where I was sitting, had my back to it. I said, what in the world was that? Or something. So I said something. And so, I mean, no joke, this scared me, you know. I didn't know what it was. And he said, he went in there and turned the light on. He said, that was my leaf blower. And he walked over there to it, sat in the middle of the floor, and, you know, he just hit it and it came on, you know, when he hit it, you know. And I said, I mean, that's exactly what it was. There's zero doubt that's what it was. But that leaf blower came on by itself, and, you know, just for a split second, you know, or maybe 1 second. And I said, is it plugged up to a charger, or, you know, is it to any energy source or anything? He said, no, it's not, it's on battery. And, you know, stuff like that happens over there a lot, his place. But that's the first time that something really creeped me out like that, because what in the world could turn on a leaf blower just sitting in the floor?
Oops.
Exactly. So there's more than boogers there. There's all kind of crazy stuff going on.
If we had time, I'll tell you what, I would really like to. I've become a lot more open-minded to the supernatural aspect that goes on with these things.
Yeah.
I don't know if the boogers are part of it I don't know if they're all in the same area, drawn to the same energy. I don't know exactly what the recipe is. I just know that there's way more than just the physical flesh and blood and what we're seeing. There's
Right.
more to it that's going on with all of this stuff. And sometimes it's really hard to figure out what part of it you're dealing with.
Exactly.
Well,
You know what I did? You know what I did? I'm sitting in my chair.
Out a leaf blower?
No, I was sitting in my chair. I turned around, and he said that was leaf blower, and he hit it and all this, when we knew exactly, zero doubt, that's what it was. And I just kind of did this number, and I just sat there. I said, I don't know which direction to run because I can't see nothing. So I don't know where it's at. So I'm just going to sit right here.
Hey, at least it was just a leaf blower.
I know where to run. Yeah, it could have been a chainsaw. That'd been worse. A lot worse.
Right.
Yeah. But regardless, it was creepy.
The first time we had stuff thrown, the first time I was anywhere and had stuff thrown at me, well, not at me, at all of us, but it was coming from the woods on one side, it was coming from the woods on the other side. I was like, oh, good. They're all around. So it's, where are you going to go?
Yeah. Don't tell them, save those and send my rocks. Save those for Roger. Let him have my rocks. He can have all my rocks.
Have you had rocks thrown at you?
Not other than that, whatever hit my car, I don't know if that was a rock or what it was. But no, I've not had and I don't care to. I mean, I've heard people say I heard somebody say they like having rocks thrown at them. They enjoy that. That's their favorite part. I'm like, well, you can have mine too. I mean,
all you got to do is go to Kumbo's. He's got a pile of them. He'll give you one.
That's what I've heard. But I mean, I don't trust these things. I don't know. If it's going to throw a rock, I don't know if it's going to hit me in the head or if it's just playing or what. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't make any assumptions.
I wouldn't make assumptions, but I do think overall, whenever they're throwing stuff, I think the overall intent is to get you to leave.
Yeah.
Now, if you get too close, if you keep coming, maybe if they got young with them or something like that, I mean, absolutely. Is there a chance that you could be hit? Yeah, absolutely. But overall, 9 times out of 10, it's a get your ass out of here kind of thing. Same way with the breaking the branches and the huffs and the growls and everything. It's you need to leave.
Yeah, and I'm sure if they were going to get you, if they were going to get me, I'd been got a long time.
If they were going to get you, why would they? What if they were going to throw a rock to get you? They'd throw a rock and hit you in the head, and you'd be dead. Or
they could throw a tree and
right up on you and snatch you.
Exactly.
I mean, they wouldn't even give the game away by breaking a branch or throwing a rock.
Exactly. Maybe they're just trying to test you and see what you're going to react, how you're going to react.
Could be.
If they can trust you or whatever, and
could be.
Maybe then they'll be your protectors.
I know if they break a branch or throw something at you, the last thing I would do is pull a gun and start shooting. That's the last thing I would do.
Yeah, you got that right.
Well, Ken, do you want to show these just so people can see the eye shine and see that the other thermal from Hollins?
Yeah, we can do that.
Here we go. You're gonna have to tell people what they're looking at here.
Okay, this is at Hollins. Right there, this is on the thermal. My thermal is not real clear, but it's just showing some movement there. It's not distinguishable to where you can really say what it is. But considering everything that was going on, I had I initially, when I walked up, from my understanding, the first thing that happened was Roger and KDG both had seen a red light. That was before I walked up. And once I walked up, I started sitting there in my chair, looking out through those woods, through my thermal. And so this is what I was picking up. At that time, I told Roger, hey, I said, I handed the thermal to him and I said, hey, Roger, take a look, see if you see anything. So he started looking, and about a little bit after that, he said that I see something peeking out from behind a tree. And I was like, okay, hold on, keep watching. I said, I'm going to get Flat Rock. I knew Flat Rock's thermal, how great it was, because we had been, testing it out, looking through it at David's house. And so I went and found Flat Rock. He came, and that's when Roger gave me my thermal back, and he started looking through Flat Rocks. And that's when he made that, had that recording of the orb that we saw. During the time after the thermal, my thermal, after that, Roger saw a face, and I saw something. I saw arms and legs. It was upright. It was walking from left to right. And I was trying to hit the record button. Now, this is the first time I had ever really, been anywhere to see anything. And so I'm still learning, having to learn the equipment. But something upright. I saw arms, legs. It was moving from left to right. It was moving in the direction of where Chad and Erica's vehicle was. Now, they've got a story, too, about what they had happen. But I won't get into their story. But so I was trying to hit the record button, ended up hitting the wrong button, ended up turning it off. When I got it back on, of course, it was gone. I didn't see it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see, that one video you just showed, that was, it showed something, and it was probably all related to what, Roger was seeing and everything. So, it doesn't really show you anything that it was, but it just shows you that it's something, it just further collaborates with what Roger saw and what he filmed.
There's something in the woods. You could it's a thermal hit of something, and it's behind the trees, and it's moving.
Right.
And it's upright. It's not a person. You're just going to have to take, everybody's going to have to take your word for it. But we all know that everybody that was there, it wasn't any of them. So again, I mean, I realize the video is not the greatest, but I think for anybody that sees this video right now, the point being, if you understand how many people were there at Hollins and the experiences that people have had at Hollins and the amount of activity that was happening while people were down there on this specific trip where he filmed it at, it's very easy to say that probably was a booger. You can't tell for a fact from the thermal, not saying that you can. The thermal is, it doesn't show anything like that, but it does go into the overall context of what all was happening for that week and everybody's experiences that was there. It's like everybody that was there that week had stuff happen, So again, in this show, we're not trying to necessarily convince y'all that that's Bigfoot in that thermal, because you can't really see that much with it.
Yeah, if that had been something I had filmed, say here at my house, behind my backyard, excuse me, if I had filmed that here, that's not something I would have sent you, or I might have sent it, privately to some folks and say, what do you think about this? Any ideas what this may be? But it's not anything I would have sent in, to be shown.
Right.
If it had been here. But given the context of where it was, when it was, with everything else going on, I just think it, just collaborates with that. It's just another piece of the puzzle, so to speak.
And I think whenever people do stuff like that, whenever you're putting yourself on the line by showing that stuff publicly. Because there's going to be somebody that's going to watch this show and they're going to leave a comment 1 week from now and they're going to say there wasn't shit in that video that you showed right there. That's not the point. And if that's what you take away from this, you're not paying attention. The point is, it's to elaborate and compound on what everybody that was there that is showing stuff from. It contributes to it. It's part of the overall thing. So I appreciate you showing it. We just have to explain to people what it is and, be like, hey, it is what it is. Now, this is the eye shine one.
Yes. Now, this is at David and Kathleen Beasley's. They live.
And if you look back to the right of the car, you can see the eye shine go in and out. And there it closes. There it pops back out. And it looks to be a significant height, but I mean...
Yes. Well, it starts going up in slope right there behind
you.
Is that what you're seeing there at the tail light of the car? Is that the shadow, or is that something's hand, or what is that?
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say was leaves, because that tree there, and the wind was blowing. So I was trying to say that was trees, but if you can see, there's a light. It's lit up right there.
Yeah.
Right above the car. And like, a couple people told me, David including, he said, well, lights, leaves don't light up. I said, no, they don't. Not like that. Because I was trying to debunk that. I was just saying that's leaves, but other people saying, no, there's a figure there. There's something with eye shine and reaching around the back of the car.
I'm not going to say one way or another what it looks like to me. I will say the possible eye shine up to the right and back in behind that looks like what a lot of people record as far as eye shine goes, either opening and closing the eye or the head going out behind a tree and then going back behind a tree. The other stuff, though, I mean, it's just too far away and not clear enough to really say. Plus, none of us were there. I mean, you guys were there. You would know if there was, if it was leaves or something like that. But again, though, I think it puts it in context, especially whenever you consider that David's house is right at the back of Creepy Mountain. And we all know about Creepy Mountain. So, I mean, it's still worth watching.
You can see it. Yeah, I was muted when I was trying to tell him just a second ago. But yeah, back at the car, it's like something blocks out where the tail light is. You can see something moving around the top, like
you
over
can
the back
definitely,
of the trunk.
You can definitely see it move.
Like its arm. That's weird.
You can definitely see it move. I guess my question would be, is it leaves closer? Like closer in that the wind blows. I mean, you can see the leaves blowing right there, but that right there doesn't look like the leaves blowing. But
yeah, a lot of people have said that.
Yeah, that I mean, and then it lights up right there. It lights up right behind the car, and now something blocks it. That right there, that part right there, it almost looked like something moved in front of the light source. See the light right there? And then it's like something moves in front of it. I don't know.
Can you enlarge it any, Spencer?
Not any more than that.
Okay.
I can on my own computer, like for me to zoom in and look at it as I was before the show, but for me to show it, this is the best I can do.
You can see it almost looks gray. It's not blacked out. I mean, you can see like the figure of something over the trunk, but whatever it is, it looks really big.
There's another thing. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but if you look, hold on, let me pause it. If you look straight from the trunk line of the car, straight over to what looks like posts or fence posts or something like that. Look over there, and over to the far right of that, there is a dark shadow that moves across right there. I know because I saw it whenever I was watching this blown up on the computer screen. But here, I'll go back to the beginning and just watch the darkness. There's a shadow or something that shifts over there, in line with the trunk, right over there where there's like a H-looking section of posts or something. Keep watching. Right there. I don't know if something stands up or I mean it could be anything though. It could be a branch or something that maybe just moved at the very end. I don't know.
To me it's like on the opposite side of the car, about where the back glass goes up and the top really starts to flatten out. When that video starts, it's nearly like a smoky looking outline of like something upright. It's like right as it very starts. It's like about the time you see the shine, it's nearly like an outline of something, like the light may be reflecting off the.
Between the wind and just the lighting out there, it's hard to tell. I mean, something definitely moved right there, but is it leaves? It's hard to tell.
I kept saying leaves because I was just trying to debunk, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to say this is something, you know, when it's a leaf. I'm not gonna be that person.
Yeah.
At the very least, it looks odd, doesn't it?
It does.
It looks odd. That does look like eye shine. And it's that creepy mountain. So I mean, nobody on the show is trying to sell YouTube world that hey, this is definitely a Bigfoot right here. Just presenting possible evidence and trying to make a educated guess about what it is. That's the best we can do.
Well, even if that was a leaf that moved, you know, next to the tail light, whatever was back behind the car that was gray looking,
yes,
that wasn't a leaf. And that, I mean, I don't know what it was, but it could have been anything. It could have been a shift in the camera or whatever. But with people seeing stuff back there and saying, oh, no, that's not a leaf. And other people, you know, running a thermal in the same spot there. Again, that's just like you said, that we're not trying to prove anything, but with everything that happens, just telling, it kind of puts it all together. Just like, hey, Mark, just like whenever, you know, we all went the first time, there was so much that happened. And until we all sat down, it took probably 6 months or longer before we all kind of got together and told what happened to us. And it all correlated and like fell in line, like starting with Billy and Sherry and Donna, and then me and Billy and me and Greg and JR. And it just went from there, like Dale and Robin, you know, everybody just all in that one area. And when we got to talking, and well, what day, what time did that happen? And then, you know, it's like, oh, well, I literally seen this then and was over here, and we seen something over there. That place, I agree for sure.
You know what's funny about what you're saying right there is I'm sure a lot of people that don't know us think that, you know, because we're Bigfoot people and we have a get together in the middle of the woods, well, of course they saw Bigfoot everywhere. They see Bigfoot everywhere all the time. What's funny is, for those of you that don't know us or haven't ever been around us, we go out of our way to go. I mean, we make fun of other people that are always going, that's Squatch. that's a booger right there. We make fun of those other people, and we go out of our way to go, well, that probably wasn't anything. That might have been a raccoon's eye shine or whatever. We don't put a whole lot of stock into the stuff that even we experience. And sometimes it's like you start talking to other people that you're there camping with, and you're like, wait a minute, what time? Where at? Oh, yeah. Okay, maybe I did see something there. Maybe there was something going on up there.
Yeah, we all send each other pictures and of this and that, and we're like, hey, what do y'all see? You know, not trying to put nothing in nobody's head. We don't say, hey, I see this, or whatever. It's like, what? Tell me what you can see in this picture. And, you know, we'll all just start trying to like break stuff down, just trying to debunk it, because you don't want to be that person, you know, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have your experiences, and we all know what we experience and whatever. So that's all that matters to me. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody, just like you guys. And it's just the fun of getting out and doing it and just seeing for yourself. Yes.
Misty, what that reminds me of with the video of the car, that reminds me of me and you and Coonbo right outside this window right here that night when we saw the blob silhouette and the eye shine, and the thing took off running down through the woods. You know, we didn't get a great sighting, but what else was it going to be?
Yeah, we was just walking Coonbo out to the truck, and next thing all I seen was just a big ass black shadow just moving through the woods. And it's like, and Coonbo goes, oh, well, hey, you know, he's just like talking to it like it ain't nothing.
If there hadn't been 5 or 6 people up there at Creepy Mountain seeing the shadows go between the trees the way that they did all at one time,
I was there.
I would have never said anything to anybody about that. I didn't get it recorded. I was not even sure what I was looking at. I was just looking at it going, what the is that?
Spencer, that night, you think about it, and that's what's hard to explain to people. When we're saying the shadows go from tree to tree, it ain't like you got a tree and then 15 feet over here, you see something ominous just drift across.
Yeah.
It was like whip, and then it whipped back over, and then it would go to this tree, to that tree, and it was like a flash going across.
And it was the same night we were hearing the 500-pound owl. We were seeing the lights on the other side of the creek. But I'm telling you, even with all that, I would have never said anything to anybody if I hadn't turned around. I didn't know people were standing behind me, but I turned around and I was like, holy shit, is anybody else seeing this? And there were like 6 people going, what is that?
And look, there was no less than 3 spotlights on that, across that pond on that hillside. It was lit up like daytime.
You can't explain it. You got to be there. And that's the thing about this stuff. You have to be there to really appreciate the way it's like and everything. Thank you for sharing the videos, Ken. I mean, at least it gives us something to look at. And like you said, helps put the other stuff into context. So it's still good to see it. I appreciate it.
I've got a lot of pictures too. I didn't send you. I mean, tree structures and things that I found and whatever, but you know, I can't say what they are or what made them. But
right,
you know, a lot of them. The most recent was when I after the camp out. Well, it was a few days after the camp out. I came from Sylacauga, came down to close to Auburn, a little place called Little Texas, and I have a close cousin. When I say close, we're like brothers. He and his family live there, and they happen to live right next to the Tuskegee National Forest. And that's a place that I wish there would be some more researchers that would go, or I could get some to go with me to go there, because I've had some experiences in there and seen some structures and things like that, and got blocked in by a tree there one time. And I mean,
really?
lot. Oh yeah.
Like the tree fell down while you were there?
I think it fell down. If it didn't fall down right in front of me, but it fell down very soon before I got to it. The national forest there, it closes, you know, they close down at sunset unless you're camping. Now they have camp spot, and They have some large camp areas, like for group camping and things like that. Well, there's two. There's been a couple of BFR reports in there, and there's also a report of a dogman. Really, the most, I guess you'd say, tragic stories I've heard about a dogman anywhere was from Tuskegee National Forest, and I heard that on Bigfoot. Let's see, who was it? Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. He had an episode on it was something like Dogman in Alabama, or something like that was the name of it, the title of it. But anybody that gets a chance, though, go find that episode. Bigfoot, Michigan Rod, and it's Alabama Dogman or Dogman in Alabama, something like that. But that's really one of the scariest I've ever heard. Excuse me, y'all. I get frogs in my throat all the time, and I can't get them out. So
fine.
if I sound like whatever, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I'm trying to talk. Yeah, we were one of the first times I was in there. I had found some tree structures and had been taking pictures, and I had watched the sunset. I took some pictures of the sunset because it was real nice, beautiful. And so I went to leave because before it got dark, and when I was going out the exit or the road that it gets back to the main highway, there is a tree down across the road, and the tree was green as it could be. It was alive as it could be. I mean, it looked like it had just fallen. There was no wind. There was nothing else down. No leaves or debris, other than this tree. And my cousin told me they had not had rain or any storms there, and it had been about 3 weeks since they'd had any kind of storm or rain. So I don't know, but all I know is I was trying to get out, and there was a tree, so I had to do a 5-point turn or whatever and maneuver to get back out of there and go out another way to get out, and which I did. So it was, I don't know what did it.
Kumbo telling stories about getting blocked in with trees being pushed down is like one of the things that is always in the back of my head whenever I go out anywhere. And I'm telling you, one of the only times I've ever had them vocalize up here was me doing the whoop and them knocking and doing a whistle kind of call back, but they broke branches and I heard a tree fall, and I was back in the national forest probably 6-7 miles back up in there on a road that gets closed down through most of the year, and they only open it during hunting season. And when I heard that tree fall, in my head, I was like, holy crap, I hope they didn't push that over the road, because it's the only road to get out of there. And man, I went flying down there. Thank God it wasn't over the road, though.
But yeah, I went by there after the camp out a few days later. I went by there and found an X just right off the road. There was an X, and I took a picture of it. I sent it to Roger, and he said, asked me, where the ends, did I go and look, see if the ends were stuck into the ground or how? And I said, no, I didn't. I was scared because I was by myself. I wasn't getting it. Number one, it was hot and snaky, real snaky. I was by myself, and I said, no, I wasn't. I just snapped a picture, but I didn't go. And now I may go back when the weather cools off and see if it's still there, and then I'll walk out and check it out more. But
hey, Rusty,
that's just one of many that I've seen in there. But I know there's stuff up in there.
Have you found tracks there or anywhere around where you live?
The only tracks that I have found were at Hollins.
No.
That was back, I want to say in December. I found 2 tracks there. I think they were probably older, pretty old, because it looked like, probably it was kind of on a slope in the roadway, kind of where it slopes down, going back down toward the gate in the back. So I think it was probably, older tracks, but it was enough to, you can make out it was big.
Hillary found the link to the
There you go.
Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, Alabama Dog.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you, Hillary. Yeah, y'all listen to that. It's he reads an email from this person, and thank you, Brother Mark. Yeah, it's an email he reads, and it's really sad. I'd say it's sad. It's really a sad story, but it's definitely, if you're interested in Dogman or Alabama, it's definitely worth watching that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been meaning to contact him to see if he has ever heard any follow-up on that or anything else. But
hold on, Ken.
You're laughing at the chat, and I can't see the chat.
I am. I can't help it.
I can't laugh.
All right. I know you're not on the show, so I'm not going to say anything too terribly out of the way about this.
No,
But I'm reading all these comments over here. Dogman has this color eye shine. We have this kind of species of these dogmen up here, and only one of them is dangerous. Bigfoot has red eye shine, but our dogman has blue eye shine and green eye shine. All I'm saying is you've either got a really, really, really detailed accounting of dogmen, and you know a lot more about dogmen and boogers than a lot of us do, because I've seen all kinds of different eye shine, and I kind of am of the belief that it depends on the light source and maybe what angle the light is hitting them. And I damn sure don't know enough about 3 different types of dogmen with bright green or bright yellow or dull blue, and how you could tell that one species is dangerous and the other species are not dangerous. But that's fine. Y'all just keep carrying on in chat. Just forget I mentioned anything. Okay.
I'm just tickled today that Misty's here. That's made my whole week.
Yeah, me too.
I'm tickled too.
Y'all, I'm starving.
Don't know. Let's hold you back.
Oh,
Well,
I'm sorry. I hate that I've been missing out and not been here.
Let me throw this out. Let me throw this out at y'all.
yeah.
Talk about this one has these eyes or color eyes, or this one looks like this, or this, whatever. I think these things shapeshift.
I don't know.
I think the shapeshift.
You've lived with them?
Look at there, Misty. That's the person Misty needs to contact.
Yeah.
Has anybody in chat heard before that they shapeshift or have reason to believe they shapeshift? Anybody in chat?
Well, I can tell you this from personal experience. I don't know about them shape shifting, but I've had them walk by me and I couldn't see them. That's 100% fact. I'm down I still can't make sense heads or tails of that shit. But yeah, I watched it coming through the thicket, pushing saplings out of the way, breaking limbs, ripping vines. I watched that thing. I watched it coming through the thicket, seeing the trees move for over 100 yards. When it got up to where I could see down that road and it was coming up to it, like fixing to intersect it, I thought, I'm fixing to see it. This thing's going to be less than 30, 35 yards. And there's no way it can cross this opening. I can't see it. And when it got to that opening, I thought it stopped because it got quiet. Next thing I know, the sound continues on the other side of that opening, and I never saw nothing. No shadow, no glimmer, no no, weird distortion, nothing. And right on the other side of that road, you hear it. I mean, this thing sounds as big as a full-grown bull. I'm hearing its feet crush leaves. I can't explain that to anybody. I can't even explain it to myself. But whatever that was, crossed that opening. We're talking a 8-10 foot opening, I guess. It crossed that opening. I could see another 50 yards down that road. That thing crossed that opening within 100 feet of me. And I heard it going another, ever how many, several more yards on out through that thicket. But whatever it was across that road, and I never saw anything, nothing. So I don't know how that worked.
Did you see Bud's comment?
Yeah.
Mm,
Where he said that's what they thought too on the thermal.
The first time I watched, first time I saw the video, I was, sitting there trying to take it in. There's a lot going on in that video.
Yeah.
But at one point, and I don't know if I told, I think I might have said something to Joe and Pat. We're watching it. And I said, it's changing, or it looks like it's changed or transitioned. And Bud was saying he thought the same thing. I thought at one point when I first watched it too, I thought there was some changing going on there.
If they can, not arguing one way or the other, because we don't know. I mean, it's unrealistic to put them in a box and say, we know this and we know that about them. We don't know. But if they can, if they can change, and if they can go into other dimensions, again, not saying one way or the other, but if so, we're never going to have the answers for this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? We're never going to, the best we're going to do is just analyze what everybody is presenting and what we're looking at and our own experiences. But if they can do all of that kind of stuff, you're never going to get anywhere with this subject. It's way out of our league.
What Pyro just said, 100%.
Yeah, about the magic. Well, the medicine being not as strong as theirs.
Yes, 100%.
that's why Misty's practicing the art of herbal medicine. She's going to finally get there one day.
She's going to be able to vibrate and disappear.
Yeah.
We won't be able to see her. It might be payback time then, Misty. You can get some folks got.
If Misty can disappear, I'm damn sure putting a bullet in her.
You're muted, Misty.
Unmute her.
She's still muted.
You're still muted.
There you go. Yeah, what were you saying? We want to know.
Yeah.
No, they were telling what I was going on about. I was trying to read comments and I was talking at the same time.
Yeah, no, that what I was talking about. That's why you're working on us sacredly. She's working on all her healing, all these bushes and weeds and plants, and I don't know. I think she's ground up a few rocks and chewed on them. She's working on.
I try to help you out with stuff, and you don't want to listen to me.
There ain't no she's ground up and chewed on.
I ain't been to the doctor in I don't know how long, and I get sick just like everybody else. But I've learned to try to heal it the natural way instead of taking a bunch of crap anymore.
Yeah. I've been eating. I ate a bunch of. I've got to where I'm taking a lot of vitamins, and it's natural stuff. It's not. I'm not going out in the woods digging it out like you do, but I'm taking a lot of different things now.
Well, I know a few things.
Your body doesn't absorb all that synthetic stuff, not like it should. I mean, it does some of it, but if you're getting your vitamins and stuff like that more natural, your body's going to take it in more than it is something that's going to be man-made.
All right, Misty, right there, 3 days question. That's kind of crazy. 3 days. She was making a super mosquito trap last night. She sent pictures.
I did make.
I think she posted pictures of it on the Facebook page.
they will carry you off here. I actually, now it really does work, but now you have, if you've got mosquitoes really, really bad, you have to keep putting it on a lot. I use distilled water, some witch hazel, real, I can't even think right now. I'm so hungry. My chicken biscuits staring at me.
Oh my God.
You can hold on for a minute. We're about done. Calm down.
Vanilla extract and tea tree oil, lavender oil, different things like that will help to repel mosquitoes. Just mix it all up, but you have to put it on about every 20-30 minutes if they're really, really bad, but it does work.
Hey, Misty.
Yes, sir.
At camp out, I had a concoction I made up and took to the camp out, and it did work. It helped. Patrick can tell you because he used some of it too, and it worked good for him too.
Yeah.
But it had the it was just like a regular size sprayer bottle, and I put a teaspoon of cinnamon oil, a tablespoon of vanilla extract, a tablespoon of vodka, or you can use witch hazel, either one. But I use the vodka, and then fill it up with distilled water. And you want your water kind of at a lukewarm temperature or whatever, and just mix it up good and spray it. And it worked good.
Yeah,
And that sounds a lot like what you have.
Yeah.
And it
Misty.
smells so much better than DEET.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I have to use it here. I mean, I can't get away with not putting it on sometimes if I'm out here working and they're just really bad. Because, I mean, we're in a low spot. So the water stands here and there's no getting rid of them because it stands on everybody's property. So it's like you just got to kind of deal with it. I'll start a fire just to try to keep them smoked out, to keep from having to put all that crap on. And you can burn coffee grounds. That works too. Coffee grounds in your fire, just like putting it in just like a little canister.
I've heard that. I've never
It
tried.
does work.
Yeah.
It has to be coffee grounds. It can't be like the instant. That won't burn.
Yeah. Misty, that I'll tell you an age-old redneck trick on how to kill mosquitoes. And it's simple. There's three things. You got to have a little small stick. You got to have a little bitty rock, and you got to have plenty of bourbon. And what you do is you drink enough bourbon, but you lay that stick on your arm, and you put that little rock behind it. And when the mosquito sucks that bourbon out of your blood, he'll stagger backwards, trip over the stick, and hit his head on the rock, and it'll kill the hell out of him.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But no, I've used the vodka in mine like that before too. Instead of the witch hazel, I've used Everclear before and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, and a nose spray that I've been making some that actually I got it. It's nothing I come up with. I got it from another lady that she was talking about. If she's out around people while they're sick or has to be on a plane or something like that, she makes it out of a little bit of usnea tincture and black walnut tincture, which it's got the alcohol in it already that it's made with. But you put several drops of each in some distilled water in your nose sprayer and just one squirt in each side of your nostril. And I tell you what, you would not believe how much that has helped me. When I feel like I'm getting sick, I can literally like blow my nose and do a spray in each side and just go and like pull it up in my sinuses, and I'll be fine. It cleans all that dirt and stuff out and like kills all the bacteria and bad stuff that's up in your nose. And it's almost like it kind of makes like a barrier inside your sinuses, and I can still be working and it seems like I don't get sick from it.
Misty, make me a bottle and I'll buy a bottle from you.
Lord,
make me some of it.
I'll send you some of it.
Okay.
I don't have any nose sprayer bottles, but I'll send you the stuff.
I can get a nose sprayer bottle. But that sounds really
It
interesting.
really
Though.
does, and it's not bad. It's not like a regular nose spray either. It's like you know how I don't know. I can't use a lot of that stuff. It makes me sick. Shut up, Spencer.
Hey, tell him, Misty, he'd be in a whole lot better shape if he'd just listened to your
I'm telling you, look, I'd have done
I'd be
big stuff
perfectly
with
fine
it.
if she'd take the damn needles out of my voodoo doll she's got going on over there.
She's gonna bake you a pie one of these days, Spencer.
Yeah, it's like that movie Thinner.
I figure next thing she'll be raising a little porcupine where she can take your voodoo doll, just slam it on its back.
Well, Ken, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You got anything else you want to get out there before we hop off here?
I'm sure there's probably a lot of stuff I could say, but we can save that for another time, or another day, or another show or something.
All right. Well, Squirrel,
Misty,
great. You got anything else?
Misty talking about the chicken and biscuits got my stomach growling now. She's had to bring it up.
She's been distracted. She's been distracted the past hour and a half of the show looking over there.
I swear her eyeballs
I was like, do y'all hear my stomach? Because I mean, it was bad. It was loud.
Oh Lord. Y'all just I've enjoyed today. I've really enjoyed Ken talking and explaining some stuff and us getting the insight. I feel like we kind of got a sneak peek at some of the maybe the native thoughts on things.
I know. I find the subject fascinating because I don't know a lot about native culture. I mean, I'll just be honest, I don't. And I always like hearing people talk about their traditions and thought processes and all that kind of stuff, especially the Bigfoot thing. I find the Native American Bigfoot connection, to me personally, that is one of the more interesting things about Bigfoot. I think that realistically, there's probably a wealth of knowledge there. If you could get some of the native people that, like, I don't know. There's got to be someone out there that grew up getting more lessons or stories or something about it, coming from a really old, way back culture. And I would like to hear more of the stuff. I think we overlook a lot of the Native American aspects of it, is all I'm saying. And I like hearing them talk about it. I still don't fully appreciate it or understand it, but I like hearing it.
Well, I just like to say that I'm not any expert, on native culture. And like I mentioned before, from one tribe to the next, you're going to have different beliefs, different things, different on anything. But what little bit I do know, I'm happy to share. But by no means do I think that other cultures and other people don't have significant experiences and things from their culture as well that are just as important. I'm not one that says, the Native American culture is, more
the end all be all.
Exactly. And really my beliefs as far as the spirituality of our native, from what I've been taught, is that in the ancient times, when we were first given knowledge of the Creator, given knowledge of medicine, given knowledge of what a lot of things are, and our ceremonial ways and things like that, religious beliefs, is that was gifted from Creator to all of mankind. It was not just gifted to native people specifically. It was originally, in the ancient times, it was given to all of man. And that over time, some strayed from that, some went away from that, and some of the native tribes have preserved that and have stayed with that. That doesn't mean that we have, that we've not lost things. As you lose your language, which there's been a lot of native languages that have been endangered and are now extinct. But as you lose your language, you lose your culture, You lose medicine, like there's certain medicines have been lost because the medicine that we use, there has to be not only the maker of the medicine, but there has to be, they have to know the prayers. There's certain prayers and certain songs that go with a particular medicine. And if that is lost, then that, that's no longer practiced. And there's examples of that, even from Indian removal from the southeast to Indian Territory in Oklahoma. There were medicines that grew in Alabama that don't grow in Oklahoma. And so there had to be adaptations made and things like that. But those original songs and prayers that went with the medicine that was only found in Alabama, that's not practiced in Oklahoma today. That's just an example.
Right.
But another thing too, Ken, if you think about it, a lot of things can be lost very quickly. It can only take just 1 or 2 generations.
Exactly.
And the art to be absolutely gone because, you're breaking a link in the chain and it doesn't take much. I mean, it won't bridge back. You can lose stuff really quick.
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Well, it's funny that you said that because it's like when I'm making something, and I make a lot of stuff for a lot of people, including just to make it, because it takes a while, 6-8 weeks on a lot of that stuff to set to be ready to use. And I won't work on it if I'm in a bad mood or if I'm not like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I guess if I feel like I'm not happy or shut up, Spencer, you're looking dumb.
He's thinking out loud on what he's doing. His poker face ain't working.
If I'm ill or whatever, like I won't work on stuff like that. Like I only do it if I'm like in like a positive mood or happy or whatever. I hate you so much sometimes.
I'm just wondering when she ever gets time to make anything, Spencer.
Right. Like, I won't do it if I'm ill or in a bad mood. That's exactly what I was. I was like, that's why the bitch don't ever make anything.
Production's on a low scale right now.
It's that time of the month. We've slowed down.
I don't care how sick you are. It's my time of the month. You ain't getting no medicine.
I'm damn ill, and I don't care if you're sick.
You gotta give me a week. We'll see in a week what it's looking like.
Hey, I bet if you ask JR, it's probably the week before, the week of, and the week after. There's no medicine made.
Yeah. She's
got about a 3-day window a month I make stuff.
She's got 4 days out of the month. That's funny.
This would turn into one of your night owl shows. We're not kidding.
We're heading in that direction right now. So we're started going.
Spencer's just.
She has to send those bottles out. Says caution may be tainted with bad vibes.
Yeah. Bad juju. Bad medicine. Isn't that a Bon Jovi song?
Yes.
Misty, you are 100% right on, though. Let me tell you, you are 100% on with that, because your intent, all of that, your mindset, your intent, all of that, regardless. I mean, if whatever you're doing, if you're putting
you said it better
medicine, but you're right though. You're right. It doesn't matter what you're doing. But your intent is
you could have left it with
very
your
important.
intent. You didn't have to follow up with "you're right." No, words that we don't say on this show. Words that we don't say on this show as Misty, you're right. We don't say that on here.
Misty 100. I didn't say she was right. I said 100.
Don't make me see the S word that you would have said before.
Yeah. Spencer, you're gonna be crippled the next 3 days.
As soon as she finishes tater tots and a chicken biscuit, she's stabbing my voodoo doll.
Like, I'm gonna break out the good pins for this one.
I got a feeling I know where she's shoving the first one too, and it's not gonna be pleasant.
Odds are that pain you get in a little while is not a kidney stone.
Yeah, right.
Y'all don't hear from Spencer on book face here after a while. It ain't my fault.
No.
I don't know what happened.
Shut up. Ken, thank you for being on. Everybody in the chat, appreciate it. Moderators and everything. Thanks for watching, guys. Ken.
Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. And I love y'all. You know I love you. And you know who you are. And thank y'all for the opportunity today to be on with Woodwalkers.
Oh, man. You made the
Glad you were here, man.
Me too. Me too.
You did it.
All
See you all
family.
next week.
Big love, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Got me looking. On the computer, you have to hit okay. Anyway, just turn me on, turn me up, turn me loose.